Hi, I'm Becky Sada with Sada Real Estate Group at Keller Williams Green Meadow, and I'm here with Dan Meyer. He is an insurance adjuster, and so this month we want to focus a little bit on just really honestly public service, because he has a lot of really helpful information to help you if you decide that you need to make an insurance claim at some point. So, Dan, we were just talking about when to when to call someone, maybe when not to call your insurance. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. If you've had some damage that you think might be covered, first off, if it's a storm damage, you can kind of look around and there's stuff around the ground that you can see, whether it be a tree down, screens are torn up from hail, gutters are dented, doors may have some dents or something like that. Those are all good indication that you've at least had an event that's potentially going to damage your roof, which is going to be your most expensive thing. If you've had a plumbing loss, if it's a slow leak that didn't really do a lot of damage, you have to take into account what your deductible may be. You don't really want to file if it's less than what that would be.
Sure.
If you've had a fire or something like that, then those are important ones to get a hold of, and most policies will cover that. That's the first name peril.
Yeah. So if when would you, I guess we work with a lot of different types of people, and some really don't know what their insurance policy covers. So what questions would you ask your insurance provider?
Before you actually sign the insurance, I always want to ask what is covered. That's a really broad question, but they're going to sit there and kind of give you the basics. But important ones are, of course, fire and lightning. Theft is a big one, vandalism, because unfortunately that's getting worse. Wind and hail's huge here. But other ones like plumbing leaks, maybe drain backups. Those are the most common ones we deal with.
I've also heard that it's important to ask if the insurance company will pay to scrape your slab, which is a big deal in Oklahoma as far as like if a tornado comes. A lot of people don't know that. As far as appraisers and real estate agents, we age a home, or when we're running comps based on the age of the slab. So if your house is built in 1960 and leveled in 2013 and you just rebuild on the existing slab, then it's going to be valued as a 1960s home, right?
Right.
So do a lot of companies cover that or no?
It's probably not an automatic on any of them.
Okay.
What we generally have to look for is damage to the slab.
Okay.
In a fire, it can, if it burns hot enough, it's pretty easy to figure that out. If it's if there's a crack that was caused by a tornado or by the debris hitting it, or heaven forbid a vehicle landing in it or something like that, that's an easy call. A lot of times it will go to an engineer at that point if it's a question like there's still a lot of coverage available. If you've reached your policy limits and there's no additional coverages, then it's a moot point. You can do what you want with the money.
I gotcha. Okay, so it's kind of case by case.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. So tell me, roofer knocks on the door and says, we need to call your insurance right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Nothing is that emergent that you need to call the insurance right that moment.
Okay.
Roofers can be a very good service and a very helpful resource.
Sure.
But there are some out there that are more sales oriented, and their goal that day may be to get you to sign a contract. If that's the case, then just like any other thing, be cautious, read through it, make sure that that's who you would like to work on your house, because if you sign the contract, you may be tied to them for the whole entirety. Unfortunately, I have seen some that had some clauses in them that caused penalties if they decided not to use them down the road. That was a percentage of the loss, so that was a significant penalty. They usually get kicked out in court, but they're that's an expense that you're still incurring.
Okay. And then we also talked a little bit about public adjusters. So tell me, what is the purpose of a public adjuster? And then you also made a great point about maybe seeing what the insurance would do first. So talk to me about that.
They have a good place. They will actually represent you in a fashion like a lawyer would. Not exactly the same, but all correspondence will go through them at that point because they are a legal entity representing you. They do know coverages better than the average insured. Sometimes they may more than the insurance adjuster. And they can bring those coverages up and hopefully get enough settlement that you can get your repairs completed. Now that does come at a percentage of your loss as well. So be aware of what your cost would be in there.
So maybe not just a roof, but it might be something where with like a tornado
Yes,
or a house fire
or
something that's
yeah.
substantial, and you want to make sure nothing gets missed.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You can work with a contractor that'll do a lot of the same things as far as getting the house rebuilt. But as far as like if you're doing a personal property inventory, I think a lot of times they will work with you to fill that out, that's a very tedious task.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do talk to the insurance company first, you may just have to pay that percentage on the amount that they retrieve after that point.
The extra. So you go to the insurance company, get their bid, and then after that, if you want to bring somebody in, then you would just pay them on that.
It never hurts to do it that way if you decide to.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, Dan, this has just been a really enlightening morning for me, and I've learned a whole lot. And again, this is Dan Meyer. He's with DMK Claims.
Yes.
DMK Claims.
Here in the metro area.
Yes. So he's one of the guys that if you call your insurance and they send an adjuster out, they would send someone like Dan out. Okay. Anything else that you want to tell everyone?
The only thing that you might get into when you have a large loss on your home, the payment a lot of times will have the mortgage company involved. So at that point, you're going to have to contact your mortgage company and go through that and realize that process can take a little bit. So work with them and your contractor to make sure that they have the timing out, so your contractor's not beating on your door every day asking for their money.
Yeah. Well, I think that is great. And I think a takeaway for everybody is when you're getting your insurance, when you're purchasing your home, or maybe it's time for you to renew and you're shopping around, just make sure that you ask a lot of questions, because just this conversation that I've had with Dan has just shown how important that it is to make sure that you know what your coverage is. It's not, of course you don't want your payment to be astronomical, but insurance is for a purpose. So when you need it to be able to provide the resources that you need. So thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. And just as a side note, Dan is our own fantastic Cassie Mock. It's her dad.
Yes.
So if you've done a transaction with us, you know how amazing and completely priceless Cassie is, and this is her sweet dad. So thanks so much.
Thank you.